Now, this is really the most senior visit by a Chinese leader since President Xi Jinping's trip in 2014. It also comes as Australia is taking a leading position of the TPP for the moment, as the United States is withdrawing from that agreement. How important is improved relationship between China and Australia for Sydney? I know there are about 1 million Chinese Australian or visiting Chinese living in your city. How important is that relationship for your people and for you?
It is a very important visit in that it shows important high-level government delegations. Of course, President Xi came to visit previously, and now Premier Li. So it shows the importance of our relationship, Sydney with the many cities, and of course, Sydney and China's relationship, which is a very important relationship.
You, as a councillor of the City of Sydney, will not probably pay most attention to the national policies. Which are the areas you will be looking closely in the exchanges, the talks, or the potential agreements that would be signed during Premier Li Keqiang's visit?
Oh, I think there are many other areas that we can pretty much look at, apart from the traditional areas of trade. One of the major areas which the city is very much interested in, and also pretty much a forerunner in, is a sustainable development. And sustainable development in our city, which we have built up a very strong stance on. Tackling climate change, we have a plan that takes us to 2030, which is called Sustainable Sydney 2030, which looks at our the reduction in carbon emissions, and also the reduction in the dependence on fossil fuels, so that we can have a cleaner, greener city to live in. Our city has over 1 million people in it each day, and it's very important to have a good environment, a very healthy environment for people working and living in the city. So this is the one area I think we can collaborate most in with many of the Chinese cities.
Why do you think the Chinese cities?
The other.
Yeah, let me talk a bit more on this. You are saying that the City of Sydney is looking for even more environmentally friendly lifestyle and environment. What do you think Sydney can learn from its Chinese counterpart in this regard? I'm sure a lot of Chinese cities would look for Sydney for lessons and experiences.
Oh yes, we in the City of Sydney is pretty much in the forefront in terms of leading in Australia in what we do for our city, in terms of the environmental sustainable policies that we have, and we try to encourage in our city. And we have been building cycleways, and we're encouraging people to ride the bicycle, become healthy, not depend so much on the motor vehicle. And congestion, traffic congestion in the city. So this is very important for for a healthy lifestyle, and also using renewables. We in the city have also very supportive of using renewables, such as solar and trigeneration. And what we can learn from other from cities in China as well is that how they adopt using renewables, and I know that and many cities in China have adopted environmental sustainable policies very readily, and they're pretty much using a lot of like pretty much environmental sustainable products, such as solar power, wind power, that we know of. So these are things we can learn in terms of implementing the policies, and implementing policies that are less fossil fuel dependent.
Now, you have been having very frequent exchanges with Chinese cities, for instance, with big cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, or medium-sized cities such as Wuhan. What do you see are the potential in enhancing such city-to-city exchanges in the future between Sydney and other Chinese cities?
I think the exchanges with these cities are very important, and our relationship with them are very important, as we are the major capital city in Australia, and then having relationships with such large cities and capital cities in China is important in the sense that it fosters the exchange of trade and the education industry, which is a very large industry as well, which is also a future industry, and especially now with the digital economy coming online, I think it's very important that we foster close relationships. And this relationship started very much so in exchange of culture, which I have been trying to advocate for these many years, and the exchange of culture in the sense that we have the largest Chinese New Year festival outside of China, and this came, started as a small community event, and this exchange of culture lets Australians of all nationalities, of all cultures, understand Chinese culture better, and it has grown now to such a large scale that we have our Chinese New Year festival as how Sydney celebrates Chinese New Year. We have lanterns designed by leading artists, leading Chinese-Australian artists, very well-known artists, and placed in very iconic places like the Opera House.
Yeah.
From last year and this year, we have a big Zodiac lantern placed at the Opera House and at Customs House, at Martin Place, all the key places. So, this brings a lot of interest from the locals and tourists. We have a lot of tourists coming in the city, and they have a lot of interest in Chinese culture. They like to see, how do Chinese people celebrate Chinese New Year, the most important cultural day in Chinese culture.
Sure.
And
I was going to mention that because
and it has been very successful.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because you have been promoting this cross-cultural awareness. We as Chinese, of course, very proud, very happy that the Chinese traditional holiday is celebrated in such a grand scale. But for the local people, for the Australian people who have nothing to do with the Chinese origin, and for the economy of Australia as a whole, or of the Sydney area, what benefits do you think such awareness has created?
Well, the Chinese New Year Festival has created, it started as a community event. The Chinese community in Sydney is a large Chinese community in Sydney, in that it's nearly 10% of the population, and Chinese is the second most widely spoken language apart from English. So it being a community event and growing as such, in that many people in Sydney-siders would like to learn more about Chinese culture. And we had visiting delegations visiting provinces and cities, bringing the beauty and the culture of each different province from China, and showing the crafts and the performances and the cultural dances. People like to learn about that. People like to understand that, and once they see that the different provinces coming, they would like to visit China and visit these provinces and see for themselves. This brings greater understanding between the two cultures, and for Sydney-siders, for our local businesses, it's great because we get a lot of tourists at this time from China, since it's such a big holiday. As I understand it's about a week to 10-day holiday in China, and so a lot of people come here to celebrate Chinese New Year, and they can partake in all these festivities that's going on. For this year in our Chinese New Year Festival, we had over 80 events throughout 3 weeks of the celebrations in the whole city, ranging from performances to workshops in teaching people how to make lanterns, to food stalls and Chinese New Year banquets. So it covers a wide range, and also as I say, food is a great complement to all the cultures, and many of people like to, and the Sydney-siders especially, like to taste the kind of food that is being offered during Chinese New Year.
Yeah. Let me ask you this personal question. I mean, right now you're the only councillor of Chinese descent, right, in Sydney. I mean, 5 million people, 14% are Chinese.
Yeah.
So the representation in the local politics of the Chinese community or of the Asian community is still very small. What is the trend in the future? Are we seeing more people of Asian descendants participating in the local politics and have greater say in the local affairs?
Well, I shall hope so. I mean, we have very high-level visits from President Xi to Premier Li, and also the Foreign Minister Wang has been here as well. And I think this is, I shall hope that this will encourage Chinese Australians to have more say in and more political influence in the political world, because we have a large community here, and we need a voice for to represent the Chinese community and also the Asian community. I'm very close to a lot of the students, the overseas students here, and especially the Chinese students. And each year I go to the major universities to give them a welcome talk, and I try to encourage them, and I give them a lot of opportunities to come and participate in our municipal government, and to see how the government works, and what is our system like, so that to gauge the interest and to stir some interest in them, so that when they graduate and when they finish, they might want to do something in this area as well. Because I think the students from China are the ambassadors for both countries. The ambassadors for China, when they come here and they learn and they assimilate in the culture, they have made many friends, they know how our system here works, and then when they're back in China, they are like ambassadors for Australia as well. So I think it's very important to foster interest and foster opportunities for this new generation